My 28F husband, 30M, raped me and I'm not sure how to process it healthily. Edit, I've read every single comment. The overwhelming consensus seems to be to not do couples counseling, so thank you. I 100% understand why. I have a solo counseling session booked for tomorrow. I have a space in a refuge, and we'll go there later this week while I figure some things out. Thank you all so much. Original post. To save the details, last weekend my husband was pressuring me for sex, and even after saying no several times, giving reasons etc., he eventually pulled me on top of him and penetrated me. He finished after a while and I rolled over and pretended to sleep. I immediately felt awful and it took me a long time to get to sleep as I was just filled with this weird feeling of horror. We spoke briefly the next day as I told him I was going to stay at my mum's, and when I explained why, I felt like I had said no several times and his face fell as he realized. He was super apologetic and I honestly believe it had not occurred to him that that's what he'd done. He didn't mean to do it, but he still did it, and from my point of view it's now a fairly big thing I have to get over somehow. I'm currently staying in a hotel near where I work as it's too far to drive from my mum's. I've been back home a couple of times and it's been okay. We've both been respectful of each other's space. But I want to move on from this and I'm not sure how. We have a 10-month-old baby, in case that's relevant. I guess it is slightly, as that's why I've been home mainly for him to see the baby, but it's also been nice for me. I'm turning to this sub for advice, as the advice I've had from the handful of family and friends I've spoken to about this has ranged dramatically from he should be the one in the hotel. No can do apparently as he works from home, to just talk to him about it and smooth things over, which A, doesn't feel like it should be entirely my responsibility, and B, is a bit of an uphill grind as there are other issues like household responsibilities etc. that I've been meaning to bring up with him that I worry would somehow get caught up in the mix. Aside from couples counseling, which I think is definitely a good long-term plan, is there anything that would be a good point to get across about what happened, or a sensible next step? I don't want to live in a hotel forever, but I also don't feel able to make any long-term decisions right now as I am still reeling from the shock of it. I tend to fold quite easily and am not my own best advocate, so this sort of thing has unfortunately happened in the past, but I'm taking each day at a time. Any advice would be appreciated. Edit 2. For what it's worth, and to clarify some of the questions I've had, I've talked to my husband since and can sort of explain his take on the situation. He said he feels it's always up to him to initiate sex, so he was just running with that and either didn't hear or didn't understand that I was saying no. I didn't use the word no much, I don't think. I said things like I'm not in the mood, sorry etc. In his defense, if I had used the word no and been clearer, he would have stopped. He didn't hear my denials for what they were. It makes the whole thing less of a I'm going to knowingly rape you situation and more of an I'm not listening but I still want sex situation. Still bad. I'm still confused. But at least it's not the huge change of personality that I thought it was. My ex-husband used to rape me while I was asleep. Sometimes I woke up while it was happening and other times I didn't wake up and only realized it in the morning, because it wasn't always vaginal and I could tell. I don't know to this day if he gave me something in my drink or something that made me not wake up. He never apologized and blames me for being upset and humiliating him over the fact that he couldn't get it up when I was awake. He's now remarried with a kid. He's a scientist with a good job and generally seen as a good husband and father. My point is, I second those who are saying go to therapy yourself. Not with him. Going to therapy with an abuser only gives them ammunition to make the abuse worse. Take your time in working through everything and seeing if you can /want to rebuild trust. And in the meantime, yes, he should be the one in a hotel. And edited to add to up, you're already doing great. You acknowledged to yourself that it isn't okay and got yourself out of the situation. It may not feel like you're doing great, but you really are. You've taken important steps to protect yourself. Whatever happens, you know you can count on yourself. He absolutely put something in your drink. Why can't he work from a hotel? He can just move his setup there. I'm confused about how, if you're the one with the baby, why you would have left. I'm not sure how you get over this. I don't know how you trust him after this. He raped you and treated you like a sex toy. Could not be farther from love. He was super apologetic. Of course he was, he just committed a crime which you could put him away for. He's a rat, drop it like it's hot. You need to flat out tell him to his face that he raped. Rape is the word. I understood from the tone that you wrote, or I believe I understand, that you are in a state of shock since your husband raped you. Seems like you want to sweep it under the rug and continue the marriage. Since you said it's a good long-term suggestion, you are putting off marriage counseling. So part of you understands how serious a violation this is. I get the sense from what you wrote that your motivation for wanting to sweep this under the rug and move on is because of your personal life experiences of abuse. Unfortunately, I am not good at advocating for myself, and because you have a 10-month-old baby with this person / rapist / monster / ex, would be more comfortable and familiar for you to stay with this person, but I believe the two highest risks for accidental or intentional death by domestic violence is marital rape and suffocation. So not only are you not in a safe situation, your helpless 10-month-old baby is at risk. I would find a safe place to stay with your baby and an individual therapist who takes your insurance so you can learn to stand up for yourself and protect your darling baby as well. Good luck. Does anybody feel like they love harder in any relationship? Meaning, in intimate relationships or friendship. Do you feel like you put so much into those relationships and you feel like you don't get the same love back? Then when they are over, you just feel empty. What I call it is overinvestment in people, in friendships and relationships. I put in piles and piles of effort and I get diminishing returns, as either the intensity scares people off or I get someone who only takes. It ends up becoming exhausting and you find yourself questioning why. Because you invested more than they were willing to invest in you. At first, they might have invested more as time goes on, maybe not, but the fact you jump in so aggressively makes it easier to be an easy mark to use, so now I'm super cautious. Yep, pretty consistently through the years I've felt this way. Now I'm trying to direct more of that love towards myself. Also recognizing that nobody loves how I love. My partner loves me how he loves, and that's either enough or it isn't. To be honest, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. All the time. Friendships mainly. Yes, for sure. I'm not saying my situation is the same as everyone else's, but I find they usually want me around to hear them vent about their issues. What gets me the most is that when they've broken up with someone and are struggling with loneliness, I always go around to theirs to hang out and keep them company. Mind you, I do this at the expense of sacrificing time spent with my boyfriend. When they've rebounded and found a new love interest, I'll be put in the back burner, like spontaneous hangouts are no longer an option. I always agree to them when they ask for them, but this is not reciprocated once they've found a guy. I guess this is what's so frustrating, that I'm willing to go all out to be a good friend when they're not in the best of places, but once they find a guy, they'll just happily ditch me to spend time with the guy. They're not willing to rearrange their time to spend it with me, whereas I always do that. So there you have it, me working and putting in lots of efforts to be a good friend just to be brushed off when they find the next best thing. Sorry for the vent, guys. Start putting up boundaries and making yourself less available. Watch them turn. They either become hostile to you or so indifferent that you drift apart, becoming strangers. Nobody likes their pushover growing a spine. It freaks them out. My M27 parents F57,54 are trying to make contact with me after 5 years just because of grandchildren. What should I do? Update. So my parents cut completely contact with me after I married someone I loved who they didn't like. Their reasons were, she is from Russia, they always called an outsider, she suffered from depression and I helped her get through it, and that I didn't marry someone as wealthy as our own family. They kept insulting my girlfriend, at the time, and told me in front of her that she'll ruin my life. She is both today I fucked up, responsible and matched my personality perfectly, and we loved each other, so we got married. Not only they did not attend my wedding, it was a little embarrassing, but they cut complete contact with me. I was a bit hurt at first, but after a while and seeing how much happy I am with the person I loved, I moved on. Now we have two both today I fucked up daughters, and they've heard about it, so they are trying to make contact with me after disowning me the worst way possible. They say they just want to see their grandchildren, and it's their right. My wife said she does not want her children to meet the people who hate her. I'm probably going to listen to my wife, but just wanted to see an outside perspective on the whole situation. What should I do? They hurt both you and your wife. If your wife says she doesn't want them to see her kids, that's that. Your first loyalty is to your wife, and you have a duty to protect your children. From what you wrote, your parents have no remorse for how they have behaved toward your wife and your marriage, and it's reasonable to assume that more of that poison is ready and waiting to be dished out. Don't give them that opportunity. Don't let them near your precious kids. Edit. Also, these people have no rights in this situation. All they ever had was the potential of the privilege of sharing your life with your lovely wife and children, and they chose to throw that away. Don't let them see them. It's a hard decision, but these people have no respect for you. Also, your parents sound very toxic, and I don't think you want that kind of toxicity coming anywhere near your family. I wish you the best. Nah man, fuck 'em. They straight up have zero respect for you and your partner. They do not want to reconnect with you. They just want the grandparent exp. They made their choice when they cut contact with you, and not being able to interact with their grandchild is one of the consequences of their choice. Even my father's brother said don't let them see your kids. I just thought maybe they've changed, but when they called me it felt like nothing had happened. And I'm worried they might brainwash my kids, so I'm 99% convinced not to let them see my daughters. They also didn't even apologize to my wife for the way they treated her back in the day, which is pretty much the most important thing to do for me. They really hurt her self-confidence at that time. And I think in their family and friends they are the only ones without grandchildren. It's a bit embarrassing for them, like they embarrassed me in front of my wife. They disowned you, which means they declared you not their child, which, by proxy, means they have no grandchildren by you, the disowned. Simple reasoning. They will have to reap what they sowed.